with Andre Costello and the Coal Miners, everything uh, has to sort of pass through the filter of what of the players of the band. Um, there is a point with the beginning of our second record, the Resident Frequencies, where I started kind of like driving it and kind of being a little more specific with what I wanted, and like kind of halfway through that record, started really getting into a method. I just really started just like kind of letting my players do what they do, and that's kind of starting to happen here on the newer album, where if I have a part that I need in there, like if I know that there's a melody that needs to happen on the keyboard or something, I'm gonna play it and I'm gonna have James do it because he plays the keys, or a guitar part. I'm gonna tell Rich to do it. But outside of that, whenever that's not there, there's just like this sort of comfort in knowing that like what they come up with is going to be
Hmm.
probably
Yeah. I
great.
I relate with that 110%. And uh, my one project, which is now called Normal Creatures, we used to play under Sykes and the New Violence, but it would be like me writing all of these songs and like, hey, learn this stuff and you could change it a bit. But like, it
Hmm.
took me a couple albums to kind of let go of that and like realize it's like, I have these people around because they're good at what they do. And like, I can't really pay these people anything, so I can at least let them write parts and be a part of this fucking thing, right? Like, I should trust
Yeah.
them and relinquish control. It makes
Hmm.
songwriting a lot better too, to kind of like
Hmm.
leave that space out, because it's like, oh,
Hmm.
like I kind of have an idea of what, the bass line in here could be, but let's just leave it raw and just see what they come up
Hmm.
with. Cause it's like, most of the time it's like, I wouldn't even have thought of that because we're two different players. So awesome.
Right. What I really like is the efficiency of it, and I like practicing and I like figuring things out. But there's a point where you're at rehearsal and you're like, okay, you're figuring it out, and then you're like, we got it, and you go home, you come back, and then you figure it out and you're figuring it out, and you're like, wait a second, we learned how to play this last week. Like we found a version or a way to play this that works. Like why are we still figuring shit out? And like that's something that like I have to be like the drill sergeant and I have to record it and I have to be like, these are your parts now. You must play them this way
Yeah. Yeah.
because I'm not gonna let these songs just morph and like continue to change. And so that's why I love to like kind of just get it recorded and just be like, this is how it goes. And if it changes a little bit, if the vibe switches a little bit, you know, uh, like the Grateful Dead, that like over their career, they play the same songs again and again and again. That like, their songs took on new lives of their own as they went along. Bob Marley did that too. Like, I mean, all his hit songs, like I think he even re-recorded them like studio, like from whenever he was like in Trenchtown, like all the way up until like like the decade he passed on, and like you could find like five versions of like each of his songs like throughout his career, like the big ones that you know of. And I don't want to take it that far, but like I also, a goal of mine is to be a little bit more easygoing with the coal miners and just to be like look, let's just make sure that we're enjoying ourselves and that it sounds good. If it isn't completely true to the record, that's okay. And that's a me thing that I just need to be all right with. I have this like vision where it's like, like if you go see Radiohead or like I don't know, Band of Horses or something, like it's gonna sound, or Grizzly Bear, like it sounds exactly like the record in an amazing way. Um and you want to hear all the things that you heard on the record because that's what you love so much. Like when the certain sound hits, or like the texture, or the
Yeah.
if you hear this melody or like this repeating part, you have to have that but it's okay if it happens slightly different on a different instrument. Like,
It's so hard for people that operate in this like mid tier where we do, where we don't have like dedicated sound engineers that tour around with us, and we don't always play like
hmm
clubs that are equipped to do things. And like you might spend, weeks trying to get down like this synth part on a song that you don't need. It's the only part that you use. Like you only use it once, right? In the whole set.
uh-huh.
And you bring it,
Yeah.
you learn it, you get it incorporated, you dial it in, and then the sound engineer forgets to unmute the DI during that part. So it's like completely, I'm not speaking from something that happened. Trust me, this is not a very personal experience, but that kind of shit happens. And it's like,
Uh-huh.
fuck. So it's like when you're operating at this level where, like, not that you should like accept the mediocrity around you, you should always strive for more. But there's things that are out of your control, and it's like, fuck, how can I just
hmm
make streamline line this and make it as easy as possible so I'm not like banging my head against the wall doing something that, like you said, is supposed to be fun. That's why we still do this.